We have been calling for African Union reform ourselves for a number of years. We hope that the African Union move from being just an exclusive executive club for African presidents to become more inclusive, really, of African people, African NGOs, African business, and how to do it, that's a challenge.
Not only is the AU a necessity, if it did not exist, we would have to create one.
There was a realization that if you have an ambitious aspirational agenda, you need to have a commensurate structure that is capable of implementing such an ambitious agenda.
I believe in the African Union, and I do think it's necessary. But the AU has to adapt to the realities of the day. Otherwise, it will become irrelevant.
The African Union is struggling to prove its relevance to ordinary people.
It is frustrating for the citizenry to see that these things are not moving at the pace that we require. For that, we need a much more robust organization. Consultations have been made about how to include the youth as a voice. Is this enough? Not at all. We need to do it profoundly.
How many referendums have there been on the reform of the African Union? Real talk. We want to be heard, and we want to be listened to. Is the African Union serious about reform and serious about progressive, inclusive, representative reform, or are we just going through another round of talking?
I think the biggest challenge for the African Union is a lack of strategy. Every player that comes onto this continent has a clear strategy. China, one belt, one road. It's all about China, not about Africa. The UK, in response to Brexit, has a clear trade policy. It wants to do trade with Africa. What is our political agenda to make sure that we get something back in return?
With all due respect to Comfort, do you think that the Trump administration has a strategy for Africa? Do you think that really the UK has a strategy for Africa right now? They don't even know whether they want to be part of the European market or not. The Chinese have a strategy. Yes, they have a strategy. Not to Africa. They have a strategy to the world. That's why we need an African strategy.
What this reform proposes is that Africa has its own strategy for its own growth, for its own transformation.
Embedded in the constitutive act of the African Union is something that is so fundamentally different to the OAU. That is a recognition that the African Union has a right to intervene. But even on that, the AU has sometimes wobbled.
As you rightly pointed out, the Union, even in its previous iteration, has made a conscious decision not to be that involved in domestic politics. We have to go there, basically. We have to get to that space, don't we?
We're just all small economies. But if we come together, it's then when we can begin to make the movement become really big.
Why is it important for Africans to espouse a continental free trade area? We need to create our own. And that is going to shield us for a while from competition that is becoming extremely hard and difficult for Africa. The continental struggle has to go from ideological to practical, pragmatic, technical.
It was not simply about raising money, it's about spending the money as well.
This is about being also a good manager in terms of what needs to happen, to have results, to make sure that we are transparent, to make sure that we are accountable.
So there are teams at the AU right now which are looking into that side, governance, expenditures, so that the countries have a feeling that there is value for money.
I think Comfort just said you have to hold the AU accountable, and I guess I just have a one-word question. How? I think we need to get messy. Let's have the messy conversations about how we are going to translate decision-making at the Addis Ababa level to the grassroots level.
But I want to leave you with a message of hope. Look at the European Union. Look at what happened in North America. These challenges are being faced globally. So I think we should go out believing that it can be done.